Social Emotional Learning in the Primary Classroom, a video story created by Sydney MacDougall, a graduate of the Master of Arts in Child Study and Education program at the University of Toronto. Are you interested in working on social emotional skills in your classroom? In this video, I will explore relevant research that provides insight into effective methods for supporting social emotional learning and 3 practical strategies that can be integrated in the classroom. Social emotional learning skills, which allow children to develop self-awareness, acquire empathy, and maintain relationships, play an important role in their readiness to learn, ability to interact with others, think flexibly, and succeed academically. These skills have also been found to positively impact children's ability to understand and manage emotions, while acting as a protective factor against mental health and well-being concerns, for instance, through improving the ability to manage difficulties like emotional distress and depression. This is important given that approximately 20% of youth in Ontario meet the criteria for a mental health disorder, yet fewer than 1/3 have contact with a mental health provider. In these cases, school is the most common place where they access support. Given that most children attend schools and spend a significant amount of time there, schools have been identified as a key avenue for delivering accessible social and emotional programming. As well, in Ontario, social emotional skills are included within curricular documents as expected learning outcomes. This research was driven by my own observations in a grade 1 classroom, where I noticed that my students had trouble identifying how they were feeling when they experienced difficult emotions, and that they often struggled to engage in adaptive regulation strategies that would allow them to persevere or problem solve in the face of challenging situations. At times, this led to escalating emotions and unwillingness to accept offered solutions or disengagement from learning tasks. These observations led me to identify a learning need in the area of emotion regulation, a key social emotional skill. However, I was unsure of what specific actions I could take in the classroom, and this may be the case for many educators, as research suggests that only about half of teachers receive some form of social emotional learning training. The uncertainty of how to promote these skills can create a challenge for teachers, especially as they face concerns about supporting students in developing these competencies, in addition to the academic demands of the curriculum. Despite these uncertainties, incorporating social emotional learning in the classroom is a necessary and worthwhile endeavor. In fact, a systematic review of over 50 years of research concluded that school-based social emotional learning interventions had a positive effect on reading, math, and science outcomes. Additionally, school-based social emotional learning interventions have been found to enhance student attitudes and well-being. Notably, social emotional skill development was identified as a strong predictor of prosocial behavior and academic performance, while also protecting against conduct problems, leading researchers to conclude that social emotional learning plays a critical role in students' developmental trajectories. So what does the research tell us about how to implement social emotional learning, and what can we do to support emotion regulation in the classroom? Emotion regulation is the process of perceiving, managing, and responding to emotional experiences within oneself and others. It plays a role not only in how an individual expresses their emotions, but also how they interpret and respond to situations. Research suggests that play is critical for developing executive function skills in young students by providing an opportunity for them to learn through doing as they practice these skills. Research also suggests that direct, explicit instruction is important and that this learning is most effective when it's integrated with other curricular content and included within everyday practices and routines. Additionally, having the vocabulary to accurately label emotions is key to emotion regulation. Throughout the course of the year, we can consider introducing one new emotion vocabulary word every few weeks. The Mood Meter, a tool developed at Yale, can be used as a framework. During the first lesson, the Mood Meter can be displayed and the 4 quadrants described. For primary students, each colored quadrant is initially described by one word: mad, sad, calm, and happy. These are the first 4 words to be explored, and over time, more words will be introduced. When teaching a new word, we'll begin by telling a short but descriptive story about a time we experienced that emotion. The word will be written in the section it belongs, and then students can be given the opportunity to share their own stories. Research suggests that labeling emotions help children respond more effectively and recover sooner from negative emotions, while also improving their ability to communicate their needs and receive the support they require. Although it can feel like there's never enough time in the day to include all that needs to be taught, this instruction does not need to occur every day or even week. and does not need to be extensive to be effective. This activity can be included as part of the morning meeting or paired with another routine event like snack time. The use of children's literature has also been identified as an effective strategy for teaching emotion vocabulary and developing social-emotional skills. During weeks where new emotion words are not introduced, we can select children's books that involve social-emotional content and actively engage students during the read aloud by encouraging them to make personal connections and by asking questions and expanding on their responses. These questions and extensions should emphasize identifying emotions, causes, and possible reactions. This active engagement and discussion will encourage students to remain engaged and provide opportunities for them to practice labeling emotions and identifying causes and solutions. As well, educators can include follow-up role-play activities to provide an opportunity for hands-on practice. Following the read aloud, the educator can facilitate this by having students brainstorm scenarios related to the targeted skill, act them out, and then generate possible solutions. The educator can engage through modeling and support students in assessing their solutions. Because active engagement is an important component of social-emotional learning, it can take place in small group settings, for instance, as part of a center's rotation or when other students are engaged in an independent task. Practicing these skills makes it more likely that students will be able to make use of them when needed. Because read alouds already typically occur in classrooms, this provides a prime opportunity to integrate social-emotional learning with other curricular content, like literacy and language, and in daily routines, which is an important component of social-emotional programming. Although it may be difficult to know which books to choose, we can use the specific difficulties our students are experiencing and the needs they demonstrate to support the selection process. As well, book lists available online can be used as a guide. The following resources can help you get started. It's important that students have strategies that they can draw on when they experience big or difficult emotions. Research finds mindfulness training for children in a school setting can benefit students when it comes to measures of stress, coping, and resilience, all of which play an important role in dealing with emotionally challenging circumstances. In the classroom, we can provide opportunities for students to develop and practice this emotion regulation strategy while explicitly sharing why they are learning this technique and what it's for. Teaching mindful breathing to students does not require extensive training or practice. In fact, it's possible to use videos to introduce this practice. The following resources are a great place to start. Students can also be instructed to imagine they are blowing bubbles or to breathe in and out as they trace up and down the fingers on one hand using their other hand. We can provide opportunities for students to engage in this practice throughout regular daily routines, using it to support transitions between classroom activities or as students settle in after returning from recess. Practicing this strategy will be important in developing students' abilities to access it when needed, but consistent practice should support its use, while co-creating a name for the strategy with our students can make it easier to prompt. Finally, we should find ways to engage caregivers and families. Many educators already recognize the importance of building a home-school connection. As new vocabulary and strategies are taught in the classroom, we can inform caregivers through our usual means of communication so that consistency in language and approaches can be supported. By keeping caregivers informed of new learning, there's the potential for additional reinforcement at home, and research suggests that caregiver involvement can support student academic, social, and emotional learning. As we take steps to build these important skills by implementing strategies, it's important that we collect data to determine whether they're working effectively for our students. Educators can assess students' engagement in these activities using a participation checklist, and to assess students' growth in their abilities to accurately label emotions and identify causes and potential strategies, an examination of anecdotal notes recorded during read-aloud discussions that have occurred at different points in the year may be useful. As we use these strategies to foster emotion regulation, it's important that we remember that social-emotional learning initiatives will only be effective when students feel safe, welcomed, and included in our classrooms. By honoring students' strengths and exploring new ideas and strategies together, we can support children in developing the social-emotional skills that are so essential for student success and well-being.